investigation of the Benghazi attacks and efforts to counter North Korea. This all came in Secretary Kerry's testimony at a House Foreign Affairs Committee hearing on the State Department budget for fiscal year 2014. They're asking for $48 billion. This is just over 3 hours.
On the other side of the podium, the dais just a short time ago when that was a big issue, and we held hearings in the Foreign Relations Committee in the Senate, and we wanted materials, and we got a lot. In fairness, I think the administration has testified 8 times, has briefed 20 times. Secretary Clinton spent 5 hours answering questions before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. 25,000 documents have already been turned over. Video of the actual event has been made available to members to see. If you haven't seen it, I urge you to see it because it is enormously helpful in understanding the flow of events and what happened. And the people who were involved have all been interviewed, and not only interviewed, but those FBI interviews were made part of the record and in an unprecedented way have been made available to the Congress in order to read verbatim those testimonies. So if you have additional questions or you think there's some document that somehow you need, I'll work with you to try to get it and see if we can provide that to you.
I have to just disagree for a minute. Instead of handing over copies of the documents and records that we've requested, as has always been customary practice in the past, the department has insisted that the committee staff sift through thousands of pages of materials in a room in which they are monitored by the department, and they can't remove any or make electronic copies of those documents. Mr. Secretary, these are unclassified documents that relate to the critical issue of embassy security, and the department is literally spending thousands of taxpayers' dollars a week to slow the progress of the committee's review. So this has resulted in a great deal of wasted time and money. I think it runs contrary to the administration's promise of increased transparency, and I hope you will reconsider the department's position on this issue.
Well, I didn't know there was a position that does what you're describing.
Thank you,
There's certainly no position by me to delay anything, and I was not aware that, now, if there's anything that is appropriate to turn over, what I want to check, Mr. Chairman, is what there's the historical precedent with respect to investigative document, FBI document, which we don't control. I just want to find out what the story is on that. I'll work with you, and you'll have me up here again, and if I haven't worked with you, I'm sure I'll know about it. So I promise you we'll work together to try to do that.
But buttressing in on Benghazi, it's been 7 months since that attack. People are frustrated. Members of Congress are even frustrated. They want several hundred want a select committee to study Benghazi. Of course, many of them aren't on any committee of jurisdiction, but they want a committee. And I hear comments all the time. Why haven't we captured somebody that did these bad things in Benghazi? Reports indicate that the Libyan government really won't do anything because, reportedly, some of the groups, the militia groups that support the Libyan government may be involved in the attack. Would you comment on that if you can?
I don't have any knowledge whatsoever of that. Let me just say that one of the first things I did when I came in was call Director Mueller at the FBI to get an update on this. Because obviously there's no family in America that wants justice more than the State Department family, believe me. So I wanted to know where we are, and I think we are making progress. Now, there's video, as you all know. We have identified people, and they're building a case. We're going through the tedious, laborious, and very difficult process of gaining evidence from a part of the country which is dangerous, and working in a place where the standards are different and the expectations are different. We're working through that, but I can guarantee you this, and I think all of you know because of Bob Mueller's service, and the extra years that people passed a law to allow him to serve, there's no more dedicated or capable leader of the FBI, and there's nobody more committed to do this. So I have confidence in that. I also have confidence in something else. This President of the United States made it clear once before that he would do what was necessary to bring somebody to justice. And I guarantee you he has made it clear yet again that we will find justice here. And the President will do what is necessary. Our hope is to work with the Libyan government and do this through a process.
It has to do with Benghazi. Earlier this year, Secretary Clinton testified, and I asked her about a classified State Department cable marked secret from Ambassador Stevens to the State Department on August the 16th. And in that cable, he essentially warns that the Benghazi consulate could not withstand a coordinated attack, and that's quote unquote. The regional security officer believed that our consulate could not be protected at an emergency meeting, which is a very extraordinary thing, less than a month before the attack on September the 11th. A contingency plan was supposedly drafted to move the consulate operations to a CIA annex about a mile away. And this cable came on the heels of three significant events. One, April 6, 2012, a crude IED was thrown over the wall of the U.S. facility in Benghazi. On May 22nd, the Red Cross building was hit by two RPG mortars by the Brigades of the Blind Sheikh. And June 6th, the U.S. consulate in Benghazi was targeted by an IED attack that blew a hole in the perimeter wall at the Benghazi consulate. Again, the Brigades of the Blind Sheikh take credit and responsibility for this. In written questions after the hearing, I asked the Secretary who in the State Department saw this cable and what specific actions were taken in response. I was disappointed, quite frankly, with her response, and I hope you can do better. Actions were taken in response. I was disappointed, quite frankly, with her response, and I hope you can do better. Her response simply identified personnel in the Bureau of Diplomatic Security and the Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs as having reviewed the cable. But it did not say who received the cable specifically and what specific actions were taken in response to what I consider to be a cry for help from our ambassador to our State Department in Washington that possibly could have prevented that tragic event from occurring. Mr. Secretary, can you tell me which individual or individuals saw this cable and what specific actions were taken?
I can't tell you which one reviewed it because there's a process going on right now which is supposed to come to me very shortly, which is an internal review and analysis of who did what and who may have or may not have made the right judgment or no judgment or whatever, and I have to act on that. So I have not seen that yet, and I don't want to, I'm not going to prejudice anything that I have to do here. I think the chairman raised the issue of people still working. There's a process. There's a due process. There's an administrative internal process. It will come to me, and I will have to make some kind of a decision. I'm not even sure exactly what the parameters of that are yet because I've waited until it's ripe and comes to me. But I know that it's coming, and I'll then know exactly who made what decision or didn't, and I'll have some responsibility to act one way or the other regarding it.
Well, I appreciate that, but can I have your assurance that you will let this committee know which individuals actually received that cable and what response was taken?
You have a right to know. Salmon, Chairman of the Western Hemisphere Subcommittee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, welcome. First of all, I'd like to submit several written questions that were put together by 700 retired Special Forces operators that are in regard to Benghazi, and I'd just like a written response on that. Also, you've urged us to review the video from the attack of that night. We've requested that video, but the department has not provided it. When I mean we, the committee.
We don't have it. I think I saw it in a classified briefing. I believe it may be the agency or something,
Would it be possible for you to take measures to ensure that we do get it?
I'll try to find out where it is and what the deal is. I'm surprised. I would think.
Yeah, we've requested that video, but it's not been provided.
Okay, well, we had an all-members briefing, I'm reminded, in the Senate, and it was shown there.
Okay.
Oh, in the House, there was? Oh, there was an all-members briefing in the House, apparently, which did show it.
Okay. Well, if we could get that as a committee, it'd be extremely helpful.
I'm not sure who showed it. Mr. Chairman, do you know which committee would have hosted that? All members, maybe the leadership did. But I'm confident that, look, every member who was there saw it, and if you haven't seen it, I'm confident people will make arrangements for you.
Secretary Kerry, as we now know, the Libyan president told the truth. The ambassador to the United Nations of the United States of America did not. My question to you is, can you give assurances to the American people that you will conduct an investigation that will find out why Ambassador Rice made so many false statements to America about what happened in Benghazi, and that you will share your findings with the American people?
No, because I don't think it's necessary. Ambassador Rice has apologized for her mistaken comments, which were based on talking points that she was given, and she has made it clear that she was mistaken. I am absolutely confident beyond any reasonable doubt Ambassador Rice did not purposely mislead anybody. She was using the talking points, and there was confusion in the early hours about the demonstration that took place in Cairo and a release that had taken place from an embassy person in Cairo, which incidentally was inappropriate. A release that was not very well thought out, that said something about, I can't remember the precise language, but it looked as if we were not standing up for freedom of speech. That was subsequently retracted. And in the process, I think there was a sufficient level of confusion. I think she would tell you she over-relied on those talking points, but I can tell you that Susan Rice would never go out and purposely mislead you. Now, at some point, we've got to find a way to make a judgment here about how much information we have and how much information is sort of somewhere out there and that might contribute something further here constructively. I will work with you, Mr. Chairman. I do not want to spend the next year coming up here talking about Benghazi. If there's something legitimate that really needs to be put on the table, I'll put it on the table. And I'll work with you in good faith. And I believe after we do that with you and the ranking member, you will not have questions. And I ask you to, put what your members feel they need. But let's put this behind us. We've got serious, major, big, current, important, vital to our national security issues to be debating. And
thank you, Mr.
I'll help you clear the air on this, but I want to do it in a fair-minded way.
With respect to the issue of Benghazi and paying attention to the past and those employees, what's the standard? I have learned that apparently there are a set of rules that govern that, and so, as you know, we operate under standards by which people have expectations that those standards will be adhered to in terms of firing, hiring, discipline, and so forth. So I am waiting for this report to come to me, which will give me a full indication of what my options are under the law, following those rules. But let me make it dead clear to everybody here. The first conversation I had when I became Secretary of State and entered into our first meetings was, where are we on the Administrative Review Board proposals and requirements? I get a, if not weekly, not only weekly, but more so if necessary, updating, and I'm constantly asking, where are we? And we, believe me, up and down the chain of command, everybody understands the vigilance that is necessary going forward and the accountability that will be present going forward. So it's a good question. We're clearly under the gun on that, and every incident, whatever, is going to be subject to a new standard I know that coming in as secretary.
I'll tell you, I want to say Senator, Mr. Secretary, I've got two more questions.
Okay, go ahead. But I'll just say to you, the answer is yes, we are looking for accountability, and we are working very hard to provide safety.
Accountability for the Iraqi government is important on this issue.
It's the Iranian government that I believe was behind
well, I will have to say,
but we need the Iraqi government to help provide security.
Maliki's coziness to the mullahs in Iran is disturbing, and this may reflect that. The administration is asking for hundreds of millions of dollars in aid, military aid, for Pakistan. So we're asking for aid, hundreds of millions of dollars, if not $1 billion in other aid, to a government that is holding in prison the doctor who helped us bring to justice Osama bin Laden, a government that gave Osama bin Laden 10 years of safe haven. My question to you specifically is, how much longer are we going to rely on quiet diplomacy, talking with the Pakistanis about trying to free Dr. Afridi, who is an American hero? How long are we going to use quiet diplomacy rather than just cutting off their aid?
Well, you know the old saying, Dana, about cutting off your nose to spite your face. Cutting off aid to Pakistan would not be a good move, certainly at this point in time, for a lot of different reasons. We are working with Pakistan with respect to nuclear weapon safety and non-proliferation. We are working with Pakistan to get our supplies both in and out of Afghanistan. Pakistan has lost perhaps 50,000 people in the last years to terror.
Again,
they have soldiers.
Again, Mr. Secretary, Dr. Afridi,
I'm not. I will come.
Haven. They are the terrorist friends, and here we are planning to give them millions of dollars, and they have ended up giving some of our aid to terrorists who are killing us. And the guy who tried to save us is languishing away in a dungeon. Shame on us, not you, Mr. Secretary. Shame on us if we ignore Dr. Afridi languishing away in a dungeon for our benefit.
We're not ignoring Dr. Afridi at all. Believe me, this discussion we have, and it goes on, but it's just not as simple. It's just not as simple as holding everything accountable to one thing where they assert that there were certain laws that were broken.
Yes.
And you know the arguments.
Sure.
Now, that complicates it. Also,
I've got 30 seconds, Mr. Secretary, and I got one more issue that is vitally important to bring up.
Absolutely.
And that is, I know that you're new to the job. We wish you all the success. I do not believe that Secretary of State Hillary was honestly cooperative with this committee about Benghazi. And you take a look, we have made request after request about, for example, just to get the list of the names of the people who were evacuated from Benghazi. And we haven't even gotten that, much less some of the other important questions. Now, I know the State Department has flooded us with paper for some of the more insignificant things. Mr. Secretary, we think that there was a cover-up of some kind of wrongdoing that led this administration to lie to the American people about the nature of the attack immediately after the attack and for a week after that attack. We need to have these questions answered. We need to talk to the people who are on the scene. Can you give us a commitment now that for this administration, you will be coming up with the request, the honest request of this investigative committee as to who was evacuated and how to talk to them so we can get a straight answer and an understanding of what happened in Benghazi?
Well, before I became Secretary, Congressman, I believe I got the answers to who was evacuated and had a pretty good sense of what happened there. But now that I am the Secretary and I'm responsible to you and the Congress, I can promise you that if you're not getting something that you have evidence of or you think you ought to be getting, we'll work with you. And I will appoint somebody to work directly with you starting tomorrow with you, Mr. Chairman, to have a review of anything you don't think you've gotten that you're supposed to get. Let's get this done with, folks. Let's figure out what it is that's missing, if it's legitimate or isn't. I don't think anybody lied to anybody. And let's find out exactly together what happened, because we got a lot more important things to move on to and get done.
Thank you.